Subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon for the latest film interviews, features, and recommendations on the movies that matter. Thiagarajan Kumararaja, thank you for joining me once again. I think we should reveal the backstory to this conversation. I'm gonna tell everyone. We decided to do this chat. We actually recorded it about an hour ago, and then I looked. We saved it. We thought we saved it, and we went back to it. And turns out no video recorded. I was petrified to ask whether you would do it again, and you were very, very kind. And I thought I'm going to have to use this just as an audio-only podcast, but you were really kind and very lovely and agreed to do it again. But you actually said something very funny, and I really want you to say it on camera.
I was saying, karma is a bitch. When I make people do many takes, I think life also makes me do a couple of takes. So I guess it's okay.
That's actually very funny, and it's true. Actually, I saw an interview of Ramya Krishnan where she said she has never in her career, not for her first film, she has had to do as many takes as she had to do for Super Deluxe. So that was actually very funny. Thank you for being such a sport, and thank you for doing this again. But we're going to go through it from scratch, and I'm actually really excited that you agreed to do this interview with me. Kumararaja, we're in this state of lockdown, of course. How has this? I mean, what is your mood? I know that you've spoken about the fact that you like to spend a lot of time alone. You've spoken about the fact that you're a slacker. You're not particularly sociable unless you're with friends. What is the mood? How are you sort of wrapping your head around this moment?
My life has not changed much because it's always been this way. The only difference is that I'm unable to move around freely in town. But otherwise, I think everything else is just the same. I'm not doing anything. I'm still not doing anything. So it's just the
same. You're not currently in the middle of shooting a film. You're not currently, on the set or even in pre-production like a lot of other filmmakers are. Some of those films have been are affected. I mean, those films now will, they will have to recalibrate and decide what to do. But I want to ask you, what has this period been for? I mean, I know that you took 8 years between Aranyakandam and Super Deluxe. So I wouldn't be surprised if you said you were not ready to go into production anytime immediately. But where are you professionally in terms of what you want to do next?
I also hope that I don't take 8 more years to do that in the next one. But I was ideating on a subject, and I have one assistant director at the office, so we were bouncing ideas and just thinking about the idea, and that's it. But that's come to a standstill because I'm just at home. That's all.
Right. I want to know from you, what are your feelings about? It's actually I should say here, it's going to be a year to the release of Super Deluxe. Later this week, actually, on the 29th of March is when Super Deluxe completes a year. Also, I should say here, it's currently streaming on Netflix. So anyone who hasn't watched Super Deluxe, great time to discover it. It's an extraordinary film, blazingly original. But I want to ask you, how do you feel about that? I mean, now that it's been a year, does some distance allow perspective? I mean, how do you feel about the film? How close do you feel to the film? Are you able to look at it objectively? What is your relationship with the film?
My relationship with the film is, the moment I finished the film, once it got released, I think I cut myself off that.
Okay.
But I do get feedback from people, so it kind of it takes me back to those days. But the point is, it's kind of I'm also kind of in disbelief that it's been a year since it got released. I really don't understand how time just flew like that.
I ask you this question, Kumararaja, because you said that Aranyakandam didn't run, so everyone thinks it's good. Because hardly anyone has seen Aranyakandam, it's like a mystical yeti. Now, if that's how you sort of look at that, and the difference is that Super Deluxe was a film that was watched a lot more. It's got a lot of fans. It's it got great reviews, so there was a lot of attention to the film. I'm wondering, therefore, whether you feel differently about Super Deluxe and Aranyakandam. The fact that it was discovered, the fact that people did have opinions on it, some very good and some mixed. I mean, do you feel differently about it because it was watched a lot more?
About Super Deluxe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it. When I wrote Aranyakandam, when I made the film, when I wrote Super Deluxe and I made it, I felt that people were going to embrace the film, and the idea of making a film is to entertain people. I thought people will get entertained. Unfortunately, Aranyakandam was not seen by many, and like you said, and I had quoted before, people considered it to be a good film. Some people actually feel Aranyakandam is a better film, and I mean, the films are out there; it's their call. But Super Deluxe, I think I personally like Super Deluxe more because I would like to think that I have evolved from Aranyakandam days. Uh, yeah, but I think it will take some time for us to assess, these two films. And but I have I'm neutral, so I have nothing towards Arnakadam or Super Deluxe.
Right. I should say here that I watched Aranekandam, of course, and it's extraordinary. It's just this great gangster film with Jackie Shroff, of course, who, in a way that one hasn't sort of, he hasn't been used before. Also, we should say here that Aranekandam is actually streaming currently on Hotstar. So those that haven't watched it, now's a good time to watch it on Hotstar. But Super Deluxe was just, what hit me when I saw it was just how blazingly original it is, how wildly original it is. And of course, one can understand, given the way that you made it, given the way that you sort of put the script together. It's well known now that that you asked different writers, different filmmakers actually to script each different narrative, and you kind of assembled it all together. For me, I want to ask you, what is the process of filmmaking that you most enjoy? For me, I look at your films and I feel like you must be incredible with actors. Of course, one has heard the story of 80 takes and all of that, but I would imagine that there is that skill of drawing out from them what perhaps even some of them don't know they have. I mean, Vijay Sethupathi, who was so absolutely incredible in the film, has spoken about that. What for you is the most enjoyable part of the process?
Yes, like I had said before, the process that doesn't involve my contribution is probably the best part, because I enjoy that. Because writing and on the set's direction is kind of scary. The scary part of writing is you really don't know what's going to happen, like how it's going to turn out. And the scary part while direction is that you have had some, you have set some benchmark in writing. The film is supposed to be a certain way, and the fear is that whether you'll be able to achieve that or not. That's the fear when you're making it. But the part that I enjoy, like you rightfully mentioned, collaborating with the actors, pushing them and nudging them, one step at a time, just to get slightly better. That's something that I really love. But it's kind of also time bound. Like you can't go on shooting, like in spite of me taking time to do a shot or a scene. Even this is kind of, it might be difficult to accept, but if I had a little more time, I'd probably go for a few more takes and make it even better. I mean, you can always make it a little better.
And which of the story tracks, which of the the different subplots, if you like, which of the narrative plots do you feel was most satisfying for you?
All of them have kind of satisfied me in one way or other. With Vijay Sethupath's track, it was working with Vijay Sethupathi and the kid, and the kind of emotion and the fear factor, where you have where there's this great actor who's agreed to do a film with you, and he was the one who said, like, let's go start this film without even knowing what's going to happen.
Right.
And the stress or the pressure where you will have to not take him for granted. Not make him look like a loser by the end of the film, where people would just laugh at him saying that he had made a bad choice.
True.
That was so that kind of stressed me out while we were doing that track.
Right.
The pleasure of watching Fahad perform. I can officially say this. Openly say this that if Fahad tomorrow calls me and says, I have a script, I want you to come and direct. If he's going to be there as the actor, I would do it free of cost. It will be as in, not that matter. What I'm saying is I do it in a heartbeat.
Right.
Because just to watch this guy, express.
Yeah.
It's so subtle. It is so subtle that it is so beautiful. Even Samantha kind of surprised me in the film.
Yeah.
I have not seen many of her works. I've only seen her songs, so I just went in, blindly. Then the boys were that was actually fun because these guys are actually very good. So you knew, as a director, I kind of knew when we went to the set, these guys will deliver.
Right. But you were taking some really bold swings with this film. You were making some choices and the only reason I'm not going into it is because into any specific detail is because I would imagine there are people that have still not watched the film, but you know what I'm talking about. How does one, what are you relying on? Are you relying on gut? Are you relying on instinct? Are you relying on what you think works for you and therefore you hope and assume it'll work for the viewer? Or do you have bouncing boards? What are you relying on when you're making bold decisions of this kind?
Yes, the first thing is the gut, that I am an audience first. So if I come up with an idea, the audience in me, if he gets excited, then I say, let's just go ahead and do it, because I think that's the first reaction. And I think if I, as an audience, if I get satisfied with that idea, then I think audience will also get excited with that idea.
Right.
So it will satisfy them. That's like the core. That's the seed that goes on. And then I kind of also have bouncing boards. Like I bounce out this idea of my close friends, or the first people are the assistant directors, and I say, okay, can we actually have this character, revealing herself as this, and then be like, and you look at their face, and this is probably the face that you're going to have in the theaters with the audience having same face. Like, are you really saying this kind? So
Right.
that kind of is a big rush, and my DOP was dead against that. When I narrated the idea, Vinod said, this is not going to happen. Let's change this. We just have to change this. He's like an elder brother, so he says, you just can't do this. But I think because the film starts off at a high note and you keep pushing it, audience have gotten used to this high note. So it's a gear which kind of makes it way more than what they can even expect. Even if you're escalating, they would have probably kind of acceleration. So you need to go twice or thrice the jump, then to feel the jump. Otherwise, they won't traveling at that speed. So that had to happen, and that kind of also binds the entire idea of the film.
Right. You speak so passionately about film and about the filmmaking process, and yet I've read everywhere, and you told me earlier as well, that you don't actually think of yourself as a filmmaker. You sort of that's something that kind of that's by the by. You happen to make films, but you don't necessarily think of yourself as a filmmaker primarily. Is that true?
Yeah. I am just an observer. I'm just sitting there observing the world. I think that is the biggest pleasure. So I mean, filmmaking is just a means to doing that.
Right.
And I'll just give you one more last point about the previous question.
Please.
It's also because it was opposed so many times, I thought it had to be done. Because the first time is always like that. Somebody has to make it. And thankfully, because it is my production, I have made it. It is there on the film. Now, the entire world can come against us. It can't take away from the film. It is there. It is already there, and nobody can change that. So somebody has to do it. And if we don't do it at this point with our own production house,
True.
I don't think I can convince others to do it.
That's absolutely true. That's true. So what have been the filmmaking influences for you? I mean, who did you watch and study, and perhaps who inspired you in the formative filmmaking years?
To be very honest, it's storytelling that was the bigger inspiration. The stories that you hear from as everyone, like from my mother, from my grandparents, and from my relatives. When you're growing up, and college or school seniors who narrate things,
Right.
and anecdotes. When these are like really the driving force that inspires you to come up with some stories to tell, or you hear that and you tell somebody else, and when you're narrating it again to somebody else, the interpretation of your narration, then you figure that there is you crack that, and that you want to hone those skills and make it better, and then adapt it for screen, for visual, like visual. That's fun. And I've always mentioned this. Music is actually the biggest of inspirations. Like it is probably as big as the stories that I've heard when I was young, and stories that I still hear.
Right.
Music, primarily Ilayaraja's music, because we've grown up listening to Ilayaraja's music, and MS Viswanathan, and these are like the biggest inspirations for me. Adapting their style for screen to visuals is probably what I'm doing.
Right. Right. You've actually spoken about how big, how important music is, and I've read so much about you talking about Ilayaraja's music. Have you been listening? I mean, this kind of naturally leads to we're in this state of lockdown. We're finding things to keep ourselves engaged. Is music a big part of how you're keeping yourself busy and entertained?
Yes, music. I am listening to music. I always keep. I always listen to music. Random things. I mean, there's no order to it. I jump from one genre to another, one type of music to another. I keep jumping. And yes, but in the past 3-4 days I've not heard anything, or 2-3 days I think I've not heard anything. But yes, I do listen to music. Yeah.
What about what you've been watching? Because for a lot of us, I mean, this is a time when one is able to catch up with shows and films that one has missed or one has heard about, and I'm constantly asking filmmakers and friends about recommendations. Are you watching a lot? I mean, thank God for the internet and thank God for Netflix and Amazon. Are you catching up on what you've been on what you've been missing?
Um, I'd like to catch up. There are like loads and loads of films that I need to catch up on, and there are a lot of books that I've purchased and in the past 3-4 years I've stopped going to the book fair because there's so many books that I haven't finished reading. So that's that. But like I said before, I don't have Netflix or Amazon Prime. I hardly have mostly it's my phone that through which I access internet, but that's about it. YouTube is something that I keep going to again and again. But offline, I think it's the speeches of people that I'm more attracted to. I'm listening to a lot of the southern politicians speak on YouTube, so that's my trip off late.
Okay. Kumararaja, you said that you made Super Deluxe after Aranyakandam because there was actually another project that you were trying to get off the ground, a much bigger film, a much bigger project, which you were not able to mount for whatever reason. And then at the end of 2015, you got into Super Deluxe. Is that passion project, that big project, the one that has eluded you so far, still on the cards? Is that something you still want to get off the ground?
Well, definitely. I definitely want to do it. If there is a possibility, I'll do it right away.
Right.
But I don't think I don't think the business is ready for a film like that yet.
Right.
There have been bigger films, but I'm saying the viability of the box office returns, I don't know. To be very honest, I really don't know if it will make the money back. So it's a very cerebral film, and it kind of excites the intelligence, like in people. But I don't know if it will touch the emotions. And I have heard so many people say that they didn't understand Super Deluxe. So I become too careful about what I should do next, because I can't do this, because if Super Deluxe is slightly beyond this, then this is way beyond the mark. So I think I should just not do it right. Unless I have enough money to just go and, unless it is my money where I just go and make it.
Do it yourself, right. I want to ask you about the early influences growing up and how film sort of shaped you. Do you have memories of the first time you went to the cinema? Do you have what is your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Uh, I think it was about when I was about 2.5 or 2 years old, 1978 or say 79. I watched. I don't know which of this I watched first. One, Puma, and the other one is the Superman. So I don't know which one I saw first, but I remember going to these two films. My mom took me to those films. Once with the family and once alone. I think Roma, I think she just took me alone. That's all. These are the two films I was watching.
Do you remember how it made you feel? I mean, did it stay with you, the whole magic of the motion picture, the moving images? I mean, as a 2.5 year old, I would imagine it's an overwhelming experience.
Yes, it was. I think a lot of scenes and a lot of moments from Superman stayed. But one particular image from Coma State, the shot where I think everybody is just lying horizontally straight. I mean, I vaguely remember. I think that's the only image I remember from Coma. That way, I think Coma must have been the first film that I watched. So because I have very few images, probably only one image remaining. But it was very, very. I mean, anytime I think when people watch film for the first time, it is a experience. Then later I watched a movie that's kind of semi-fantasy, and that was a film that I revisited many times. Like I must have seen it 2 times. That was like 15 years back or 20 years back. I think I've not seen it in the past 20 years. It's a very simple film, but I really like that film a lot. So the kind of it's a fantasy.
Right.
That aside, I think there was another film. There was a remake of John Wayne's film. So I think that was another film that I really liked.
Right. So much of the joy of watching movies is the experience of going to the cinemas. That whole collective experience, which of course for now one is unable to do because cinemas are shuttered and we're in lockdown and we're mostly entertaining ourselves watching films and watching shows at home. Do you I mean, is that whole cinematic experience, the collective experience of watching movie, is that what sort of you miss? Is that why you don't have the Netflix account and the Amazon account? Are you more a big screen goer?
Yes, comparatively, yes. I go to the bigger screens more often. Television is or Netflix is something that I mean, when I visit my friends, probably they play something and I watch it there. The reason I'm not subscribed to any of these things is because I think I don't have enough time. I mean, I don't do anything, but I still can't find time to do these things. But I think watching films in a theater or in a cinema hall, I think is the best experience in any of these movie watching. Like you can watch it on a laptop or on a home theater.
Yeah.
But watching it with the masses is not the same as watching the film, alone at home. You take any of those films, watch it once in the theater, come back and watch it at home. It might still work, but watch it at home directly. It is not going to be as exciting as you watching it in the theater, because I'm sure psychologists will say that we don't react the same way to a film or to anything when you're alone. But as people in big numbers, we become slightly susceptible to many things. So it kind of makes it more enjoyable. We become slightly more like children.
Right. I have to ask you, what is your advice to those that are, that are aspiring filmmakers or younger filmmakers who are unable perhaps right now to go out and practice their skill or practice their profession because we're homebound for now? What is a good way to keep in touch with one's skill, to keep in touch with one's craft, while perhaps not being able to go out and practice it, in the real world, in a sense?
I ideally wouldn't like to advise, so I wouldn't put it like that. But because I think if I say and they take it that way, they'll be bound to that. But I think people should find their own way, and they will find, and they do. So, but I can tell you what I generally do. So I keep playing things in my mind, and see how else we can do this,
Right.
and finally figure which is actually the best way to do it. How better can we do something. So that's one thing. Uh, what else can be done about a situation or a moment or the scene or to a character? Uh, uh, what more can we give the audience? And how different can we give the same experience? And these are some small things that I generally do. Uh, uh, Taking things that have already been done and see how we can actually twist things and see how effective it can be. Most of the times what they've done is better, but it's still worth giving it a shot, like to see that.
Right.
And the other thing is to push everything one step more than what's already done or what you already have in your mind. What actors can do, what DOP can do, what music director can do. Just nudge them and push them one bit more, and I think that's good enough. Or at least that is a good way to start. And that eventually will culminate into a bigger work. And finally, the bigger thing is to be very objective about this. I mean, I would not be attached, and I think that kind of it makes it easier for us to judge. Like the unique thing or the most how do I say, the most risky thing that I did with the second half of the film, that particular factor. I was okay doing that because I thought I was very objective about it, and I kind of I knew the kind of risk that I was taking.
Right.
Because otherwise I would have gone either ways. But
Correct.
I knew that
It was a calculated risk. Yeah.
But I thought it is okay. It is not going to break the film. A person who's going to like everything, he'll say, I like everything except that. But I'm okay. Right. It's like somebody saying, I like everything, I just don't like your nose. I'm okay. So, but I still like to have that in the film. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's actually great advice. That's actually great advice for anyone who's a creator to to follow. I want to end, Kumararaja, by asking you, how do you believe that this experience that we're currently going through is going to change us going forward? Once and when the world normalizes again, hopefully, how do you believe that this moment in time and this experience that we're going through is going to change us?
These times make us more human, makes us more nicer, and we are more kinder to others and other lives, because we suddenly start valuing life because of that risk. And I think it was getting the name, but he said that you will only fall in love with things that you know you will lose. So Tarkovsky said that. I'm so sorry about that. So I'm saying. So I think now we value life more. This is going to make us more passionate and more human. But I'm sincerely hope that people remember this when we become normal again, when the world becomes normal again. To retain this goodness in us and take it forward in our day-to-day lives, and be kind to everyone. I think that's value life. Yeah,
that is actually great final words to live by. Actually, really, it is important to kind of remember that and take the kindness forward, and not kind of when we're done, we don't go back to our old lives in a sense. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kumararaja. Really a big fan of your work. Very looking forward to what you do next, and not 8 years later. Hopefully, it'll be much sooner. But thank you so much for this. Thank you for doing this again. Like I said at the beginning, those that don't know, we just did the whole interview again. And I'm so grateful for you to that you agreed to do this again. I really think that your fans and anyone that loves the movies will have a lot to take away from this conversation. Cannot wait to see what you do next. Once again, Aranyakandam is streaming on Hotstar, and Super Deluxe is streaming on Netflix. So those of you that haven't seen the films, it's a great time to discover them. Thank you so much. And the next time we meet in person, we chat in person.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.